guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to look into today is actually the, was unsolved case for 9 years of Faith Hedgepeth. But now, as of a few days ago, they have finally found their suspect, and he is under charges of first-degree murder. So yeah, I wanted to do this case because there's been a recent update on it. And I'd always planned on doing this case, but the fact that now they actually have somebody in custody is like amazing. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. Faith Hedgepeth was born on the 26th of September in 1992. She was raised by her mother because her parents divorced after just a year. She had older brothers and an older sister, and by all accounts her father apparently had a drug problem while he was younger. Faith herself was a very intelligent girl. She was very down to earth, and she had these dreams of becoming a doctor. She was very involved in the tribe Salguero-Olivares. And I apologise if I've said that wrong because I probably have. While she was in high school, she was part of many clubs, such as cheerleading, and she was also an honour student. When she was a bit older, she actually got into the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill on a scholarship. So that just goes to show how well everything was going for her and how intelligent she actually was. Now, she was just a typical young girl, really. She had tons of friends. She loved socializing, going out and having fun with them. You know, very down to earth, very family orientated. At the time of her death, she was actually living with one of her friends in an apartment off campus, and her roommate was called Karina Rosario. Karina apparently had a boyfriend called Eric Jones, and they ended up splitting up over some domestic violence or something along the lines of that. But Eric would often break into the apartment over the years and things like that. They had to change the locks. And in the end, Karina actually ended up going to the courts and getting like a protective order against him so that he couldn't come in the apartment anymore. And apparently he didn't like the fact that Karina actually listened to Faith about it all, you know, about getting this order and things like that. But, you know, Faith was still loving life. She was carrying on and enjoying her university work, and she actually had plans of moving out of that apartment when her financial aid actually came through. She was gonna go and branch out on her own. At the time, she was in the third year of her degree. So now we're on the 6th of September 2012, and Faith attends this rush event for this sorority that she really wanted to join. It was for Alpha Pi Omega. She got there around 5:45 p.m. and was there until 7:15. She was doing this paper on the history of her tribe, and so she had to leave. She had to go home so that she could write this paper out. So her and Karina do just that. They go to the actual library around 8 p.m, I believe, so that they can study. Between 8 and 9, Faith was texting her father about the sorority that she was interested in, just chatting away generally. And then Faith ended up leaving the library for a time before leaving Karina there, before she came back at 11:30. And so it's like she came back for Karina in a sense, because then they both left and made their way back to the apartment they shared. They got back at about midnight, stayed there for around half an hour, and they decided that they were actually going to go to this nightclub. It was called Thrill, and it allowed people that were over the age of 18 but they had to be under the age of 21. So obviously that's not legal drinking age in America. And so it wasn't for that. It was more for going out, listening to some great music, enjoying yourself with your friends, getting everything out of a nightclub just without the alcohol. So that is what it was for, and that is what they enjoyed doing. They got there around 12:40, stayed for about an hour and a half, you know, just having fun and enjoying themselves. Meeting up with friends, chatting to other guys, etc., things like that. They also met up with one of Karina's ex-boyfriend, who was called Brandon Edwards. And, you know, they were obviously not together anymore, but they were still friendly, and so they enjoyed each other's company as well. Around about this time, though, Karina wanted to leave for some reason or another. She didn't feel too good, I don't believe, and so she just wanted to go home. And the CCTV catches the girls leaving. There's also a guy with Faith who's caught on the camera too, but that guy did not go home with them or anything like that, you know. he went his separate ways. He probably just went home himself, I'm guessing. At around about 2 a.m, I'm not sure the time she heard it, but she was up quite early hours in the morning, and she said that she actually heard, I believe she was below their apartment, and she heard this loud thud as if someone was putting like a heavy rucksack down and just banging it down, or she likened it to some furniture being overturned. And around about that time, when the police looked into this case, they found that Faith's Facebook page had been accessed. Her account had been accessed around the time. At 3:40 a.m, a text was sent from Faith's phone, and this was sent to Brandon Edwards, who was obviously Karina's ex. This message said, "Hey B, can you come over here please? Rosario needs you more. Aha, please let her know you care." Then another text was sent 3 minutes later, which many people think was to correct aha to then. Rosario, from what it seemed like, was a nickname for Karina, so just so you know what that means. And Brandon did reply. He replied about 4:16 a.m. However, he was asking who this was because he mustn't have had Faith's number in there, and obviously the text message was sent from Faith's phone. So that is what he replied. Karina's phone records also showed that around that time she was also trying to call Brandon and that he didn't answer. I mean, he was probably asleep maybe, I don't know. Or maybe just didn't hear his phone if he was still out partying. Then her phone rings another person. He is called Jordan Gray. It was another guy that she knew, and Jordan comes down to the apartment and picks Karina up, and off they go together. When Karina left, she said that Faith was asleep in her room. And another thing that occurred as she was leaving was she didn't lock the door, which I really don't understand. Like, I don't get why people wouldn't lock the door, especially hearing all these horror stories, especially... I know people break into houses without the door being unlocked, but there's a lot of cases where the literal murderers just said, like, when they chose them victims, why did you choose them? And they'll say, well, the door was open. So they go around trying all the doors, and whoever's is open, that's who they want to pick. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm not judging. She was drunk. Maybe that was something they did. Who knows? I don't want to put any blame on anyone or anything like that at all, so please don't take it as that. It's just the facts of the case. She did leave the door open. Jordan apparently drove Karina to West Longview in Chapel Hill to go to a friend of theirs, and they got there around about 4:30, where they decided to stay all night. The next morning, Karina's trying to get home. It's about 10:30 in the morning, and she's trying to get back to the apartment. She rings Faith, but she didn't get an answer, so she calls another friend that could give her a lift. This other friend was called Marisol Rangel, and she agrees. You know, she says that she'll come pick up Karina and take her to their apartment. When they get there, Faith's car is outside, and so they know that she's still in there. Karina goes inside, and the girls shout Faith's name, but she doesn't answer, and so they eventually enter her bedroom, where they find a brutal scene. She was partially nude, wrapped in a quilt with her top above her head, and the room was entirely covered in blood. So they called the police.
How old is she?
She's 19.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to touch her, but
Listen to me. Is she breathing?
I don't know.
You need to check and see. Is she breathing?
Kate, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, listen to me.
There's blood everywhere.
There's what?
There's blood everywhere.
At the time, an investigation was launched, and Faith's case would actually be sealed for 2 years, so they didn't release hardly any information at all. But police did manage to collect some DNA from the scene. It was semen, I believe, and from that they managed to get a DNA profile of their suspect, the person that had done this to her. Obviously, Faith's body was sent for autopsy. They found that she had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, and it was believed most likely to be by an empty rum bottle that was normally kept in the kitchen. Of course, they looked into everyone around them, especially people like Eric, who had the history of breaking in and things like that, but they had this DNA profile, and so from that they were able to rule out a ton of people because all they needed was the DNA, literally. So Eric gave his DNA and it didn't match, so he was ruled out as a suspect. They tested lots of men. They tested a lot of people for this DNA and nobody seemed to match it, so a lot of people were ruled out very early on. They tried everything to find as much information as they could. A reward was raised just for any information leading to the arrest of Faith's killer, and it was really hoped that that reward money would encourage somebody to come forward with some information, because they just had so little leads. They had this DNA, and DNA is fantastic in the sense of if you find the person it belongs to, but if that person is not in the system, has never committed a crime before, or has never had the DNA taken as a result of it, and they don't do anything in the future, and say it's like a stranger or somebody that's barely known and you don't really interview them or something like that, they're never going to get that DNA, and so it's really, really hard to match someone to it. I mean, if they're lucky and it's someone that she knew, because obviously they interview all of those people around them, then they can take the DNA and test it, and, you know, they would get a match. But unfortunately, that isn't always the case. 2 months pass by and another $10,000 is added into the reward money, making it $39,000. The FBI did a profile on the man that they thought had possibly murdered Faith, that he likely lived close to her and possibly had shown an unusual interest in her, or even in her case. As I said, her records were sealed for 2 years. After this 2 years, they did release the 911 call, which I've already played for you. They also released that her body had cuts and bruises and she had blood under her fingernails. So obviously it was trying to defend herself, and that she struggled with her attacker. They also released that they had found a note next to her body. It was written on white paper that seemed to be from a torn paper bag, and this is what it said. They had a handwriting specialist on it, but that didn't come with anything either, because I think they believed that whoever wrote it had tried to make it not look like their own handwriting. Also, this note was clean, like the entire room was covered in blood, but this note wasn't, so it made people believe that it was either written earlier and taken in, or this person cleaned themselves up and then wrote it after. Who knows? And the rum bottle that was used to murder her, they actually found in the bedroom with tissue. Normally it was kept in the kitchen, and they also found DNA on that too. So all this information they didn't release until 2 years later, and the police did door-to-door searches and inquiries around the neighborhood just to see if anyone had seen or heard anything. Apparently they searched one of the apartments in the complex as well. I also have seen that the police sort of lacked a little bit in this case in certain aspects of it. They apparently didn't ask for the CCTV outside of the club, and only did so after a reporter had told them to look into it, which was 19 months later. And by that point, it had been recorded over. So I'm guessing, we've got that footage of them leaving, so I'm guessing they had one outside as well, overlooking sort of the street. I'm not too sure on that one though. And I read something about them leaving her car unsecure. So there you go. On the 23rd of September in 2016, an image was released by Chapel Hill Police. It was of the man that they based the image off their DNA profile that they had created. And it gave a rough idea of what they believed this person that attacked Faith may have looked like, going off his DNA. Police had not really named any suspects in the case, or even like persons of interest in it for a long time. Like I said, they were keeping a lot of it under the belt, and they do that in ongoing investigations. They don't want to show all the cards, because that might be integral to them building a case against the person if they do catch them. So, you know, it's quite normal for them to do that. They stated that they didn't believe it was a mere crime of opportunity though, that it was possibly someone that knew Faith, maybe someone in a social group, her uni, something like that. They interviewed 2,000 people and did DNA testing on 750 of those, and obviously those came back as not a match. They had reportedly narrowed down the pool of suspects, but, you know, didn't actually release any of those either, as I've said. There was a lot of suspicion around her roommate for a little while, but a lot of suspicion of this case for 9 years. It remained unsolved for 9 years. That was until this month, in fact, of September of 2021. Chapel Hill Police announced that they had arrested a suspect for the murder of Faith Hedgepeth. Miguel Enrique Salguero-Olivares, who is 28 from Durham, was taken into custody earlier this month. He is actually charged with first-degree murder and is currently being held in the Durham County Jail without bail. The police have not yet revealed his relation to Faith in any way whatsoever, or any of the details about his arrest as of yet. So obviously this is still an ongoing case and we're still waiting on information to come out on all that. The assistant chief said the investigation is not complete and our work is not done. It isn't known when the police first began investigating. The suspects are actually what led them to do so. On his record though, he has a charge for driving while impaired. That was in Wake County in September, where his blood level alcohol was 0.2, which is actually twice the legal limit. According to court records, he was also charged with no operator's license, no liability insurance, an open container alcohol violation, and a registration violation. On the September the 3rd, he was due to appear in court, but he failed to do so, and an outstanding warrant for his arrest was issued on the 7th of September. He didn't have any previous convictions or violent crimes in his sort of criminal history, but he had been convicted of driving whilst impaired before. That was in 2014. Miguel would have been 19 around the time of Faith's murder. So yeah, that is all we know for now. They have a suspect in custody. He matches the DNA profile of Faith's killer. So, I mean, it's can't really be denied, can it? I guess he literally matches this profile. And so we will wait for the trial. We will wait to see what comes of it. I will keep my eyes and ears open for it as always, and I will put a pin on this video when we have an update. But yeah, keep your eyes out for it. Honestly, I'm just really glad that if he did kill her, which I assume he did, I don't see how you can have your DNA there and not be the killer, that he's finally been caught, because it's literally been 9 years, you know, and it's a long time for a family to wait to find this monster that did this to their little girl. So yeah, my heart as always goes out to the family, who are obviously delighted that this killer has finally been caught. Fingers crossed everything goes well with the trial and everything like that, and they can finally get the justice that their daughter deserves. But yeah, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the case of Faith Hedgepeth. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.